Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Erica. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you today. So as Erica shared, my name is Evin McMullen, and in addition to being a longtime SheFi enthusiast, I am also the co-founder and CEO of Billions Network, where we are here on a mission to save the internet in the age of AI. As I'm sure many of you have already experienced, more than 51% of our online and on-chain experiences now come from unidentified, unaccountable bots. And so that is why our technology at Billions Network makes it easy for you to prove who you are online and on-chain, and as well as extending those abilities to the AI agents who serve you. A little bit about me. I first got excited about decentralized technologies as a student, like many of you folks, in an environment very similar to Ewha. I had an amazing young woman as my computer science professor who introduced me to the Bitcoin paper in 2010. And so I never got the memo that decentralized technologies were not a space for people like all of us here today. So huge thanks to SheFi and to Erica for curating this wonderful community. So let's get into it. First up, to quote our dear friend and fearless leader, Maggie Love, 30% of women feel overwhelmed by AI. But I'm going to go ahead and say that we are not overwhelmed by technology. We are overwhelmed by being told that it's going to be too hard before we even try. So that's also why it's really awesome that we are here today. The overwhelm is also structural, just not pedagogical, because the internet is moving really fast, as we discussed earlier, with these massive changes regarding who exists online today, and that is the challenge that we are here to address. With more than half of online and on-chain interactions coming from bots, we are now, as human beings, in the minority of digital citizens. There are sort of three types of non-human traffic, if we want to think about it in this way. First, there's helpful non-human actors. These are like calendar agents, booking bots, some of the demos that Jimmy shared with us earlier from the Google side of the house. Secondly, we've got the dangerous kind. These look like deep fakes, cloned voices that are now indistinguishable human from non-human. In the United States, where I'm from alone, last year there was more than $1.1 billion in losses due to these bad non-human actors. And we anticipate that next year it's going to exceed about $40 billion. Then lastly, we have unaccountable bots. These look like no name, no owner, no trail, no way to prove who you are interacting with. So now we have these kind of two strange simultaneous crises. On the one hand, we have fake humans pretending to be people, and on the other, we have real agents with no verifiability, no accountability. So today's focus is going to be on the second one, the one that no one talks about enough, and the one that many of us have hands to keyboard and are controlling already right now. So first off, I want to tell you guys a story. I'm sure many of you have bought plane tickets before, and some of you may have even interacted with ChatGPT wrappers or AI-enabled customer service. However, that's starting to get a little strange when it comes to accountability. So Air Canada, a Canadian airline, recently released a customer service agent on their website. This allowed a user to interact and ask questions about plane tickets, but the response they got was not correct. That AI agent was just making up plane tickets that did not exist. Now, this, of course, went to court to try to figure out who is responsible when bots do bad things. So what happened is that the discount and the pricing that was offered by this chat interface was actually held by the court to be the responsibility of Air Canada, right? It's your agent, it's your website. So, your customers expect that they're going to be receiving real information. And so what that revealed is that, when agents are in a position to make financial decisions, to represent insight from the business, that business is responsible for the outcome of those agents. But today, there exists no insurance product to be able to cover such an implementation. There exists no identity system globally scaled enough to be a clear backstop for these types of interactions. So the big unanswered question here is that, whose agent is it, and were they even authorized to make these choices? The core truth is that every agent is acting on someone's behalf, right? Every bot has a boss. There's always a human or a business or an entity behind that non-human actor. But today on the internet, there is no way to prove it, and that is the gap that we at Billions Network are filling. So early attempts at agent identity do exist. There are some implementations of partial identifiers, partial key pairs, things like registries and 8004. Those are great starts, but they are incomplete solutions. Agents are not like people in many ways, obviously. Although they can learn, they can iterate, they can update, they are not distinct necessarily forever. An agent that you deployed in January may have changed and updated 6 times since then, or maybe even more. You may have added skills from something like OpenClaw, or iterated on versions of different key pairs and tools that you have. And so this brings us back to a favored meme from our ecosystem. How many of you guys have ever heard of the ship of Theseus before? Oh, fantastic. Well, let me introduce you to this story. This comes from ancient mythology. And it's more of a philosophical question about who we are as people. So let's say in the last 5 years, every cell in your body has turned over, right? You are not physically the same being that you were 5 years ago. And the question, sort of the parallel from mythology about the ship of Theseus is that if we imagine a ship, like this beautiful cartoon one here on screen, if we were to replace every plank of wood in that ship, replace every fiber of its sails, replace every single nail and screw in the deck, such that they were all new components, even though they took the original shape, is it the same ship if every piece of component material is replaced? And so this is a similar question, not only to reflect on ourselves and our own identity, but for purposes of today's discussion, to think about our AI agents. A name tag alone is not an identity when the party bearing it changes meaningfully over time. This is true of key pairs as well as our agent identities, right? They don't tell you who the agent is accountable to or what it's authorized to do. And so we at Billions Network think about real identity as proof that holds up as your agent evolves, proof of who it's acting on behalf of and the permissions of what it is allowed to do. So at Billions Network, our mission, as I mentioned, is to save the internet in the age of AI, enabling every human to stay protected and making sure that every bot has a boss who they can prove they are acting on behalf of. Our team has built this infrastructure for nearly a decade, and today our ZK libraries are the most used on Earth, supporting more than 9,000 institutional, government, and on-chain integrations with folks like TikTok, the Red Cross, HSBC, and more. And our ecosystem of verified human beings now exceeds nearly 2.5 million, updated from the other day when I first made these slides. And then more excitingly, I also wanted to share for the first time here that we now support the largest population of verified AI agents anywhere online, Web 2, Web 3, across the internet. So what this means is that with Billions Network, now agents can prove who they are representing, whether that's an individual, a unique person over a certain age, in a certain location, associated with a given business, and more. So also, shout out to Seoul and our community here in Korea. Actually, these capabilities that underlie verified agents emerged from feedback that we initially got from our meetups here in Korea, some early developer feedback regarding the usage of identity for agents. One of the things that I'm really proud of also in our Korean community is that we have a continuous feedback loop of our technical features and products. So if you are builders and you have different ideas or ways that you would like to see this reflected, please let us know, join our community in Discord, share that feedback with us, because who knows, it could add up to our next feature capability just like this did. So to return to this concept of verified agents, now that we're talking about that ecosystem, the term verified can mean a lot of different things in crypto. But here's what it means exactly to us. It is not storing your data, collecting it, scanning your face, handing over your vital documents to some random other party. Instead, Verified to us means that you have proven what matters without exposing what doesn't. So, for example, a reference that I like to share when it comes to verified abilities actually dates back to a university campus, not dissimilar from this one. In the United States in 1997 at Harvard University, Professor Larry Lessig suggested that at some day in the future, you will be able to go to, let's say, a bar that requires you to be over the age of 21, and instead of showing the bouncer your full ID, giving them your height, your weight, your home address, your organ donor status, in the future, instead, you could share with them a verifiable thumbs up or a green light, proving that you are of age without revealing your date of birth and all of that other information. And I'm very pleased to say that today, thanks to our tech stack, not only can you accomplish what Professor Lessig suggested in 1997, but now your AI agent is able to do that on your behalf. So without revealing your date of birth, you can prove that you are over a certain age. Without your agent revealing personal data about its controller, it can prove that it is representing a specific human with specific traits. So by creating a zero-knowledge proof, or the ability to mathematically prove something about your data without sharing it, using the devices you already have, like your phone or your computer, without special hardware, we now are able to ensure that data never leaves your hands, that you are not inappropriately exposed, but that you and your agent can enjoy personalized experience based on who you are and who they represent. So in this way, we enable useful reputation for agents, which means that they can carry this data and also build on it over time. So earlier, we heard Jimmy from the Google side of the house describing the ways in which Google is enabling agentic payments. And I could not agree with her more that it's vital for agents to be able to facilitate payment online. In fact, stable coins, I think, are referred accurately to as machine money. But there's a big problem that we haven't yet addressed here, which is we cannot scale networks of payments if we don't know who we're paying. Now, that may seem like kind of an obvious conclusion, right? Of course, we don't want to be sending money into the void unless we can confirm that the party on the other side is the person or organization we actually meant to send money to. And also making sure that they're not a bad actor who's misrepresenting the person we were trying to pay. So with that in mind, we actually at Billions Network set up what we call KYA, or Know Your Agent. You may have heard of KYC, Know Your Customer, KYB, Know Your Business, and KYA follows in the same way, where your agent can prove who it's acting on behalf of to make sure that when sharing data, when sharing capital, when sharing permissions, we have the right party on the other side. Now, this is also a really awesome way to interoperate between different systems. Jimmy was chatting earlier about the specific solutions tailored to the Google ecosystem, and there are other solutions that are specific to ecosystems such as Stripe or Tempo, and even further solutions that are dedicated to particular protocols or use cases. And so KYA allows you and your agent and your capital to move freely between these spaces so that you are the same party, whether you show up to Protocol A or Protocol B, and you don't have to reintroduce yourself like it's your very first day on the internet. So to illustrate one way in which we can apply these capabilities already, we have introduced what we call FIRE, or the First AI Agents Rewards Infrastructure. This allows your agent to prove it's acting on behalf of a unique human being, and so we have introduced or invented the concept of Sybil resistance in mixed company. What this means is that we can have environments that include both humans and AI agents, but we can discern unique human beings behind all of these different addresses, accounts, or usernames. So the very first use case that we're illustrating here is a way for AI agents to qualify for airdrops. It's very exciting, of course, to enable human beings to contribute to the development of protocols and to be rewarded, but we think it's also very valuable for agents to have that same capability. Of course, we want to make sure that one human controlling 1 million bots does not inappropriately weight or balance the output and rewards distribution. And so that's why with the FHIR infrastructure, your organization or protocol can make sure that the value is reaching the right individuals, whether it's 1 bot per person or a different set of requirements for those agents, but essentially giving them the rules engine to be able to distribute value to agents so that agents can then deliver value back to the protocol itself. So, this is sort of what utility means for us at Billions Network. A tool, not just a feature, an infrastructure for the accountable internet. So if you are operating AI agents, you're curious how they can deliver some value back to you, check out FHIR, and we will be including those agents in the distribution of value from our own protocol at Billions Network. So, to wrap it up and bring us back to what has gathered here today, identity requires accountability. And we know here at SheFi that identity is an expressive, living, co-created experience, both in physical space and on-chain and online. The agentic internet, as we've been discussing today, is not just a prediction. It is the reality of our experience, but it's a little bit wild on the edges until we bring in the tools and capabilities needed to make it serve us. The defaults, the norms, and the technical architecture are being decided by whoever shows up to these conversations. And so I am especially grateful to all of you for making time in your busy schedules to join us here today and to help shape what this looks like together. Of course, as we know, the core questions here are not just technical. Identity is a cultural construct that we need to build together in data, translating it from what we need into digital primitives that work on chain. Who is accountable, who gets credit, who's agent, under which conditions, with what protections, these are all human questions. The kind that this community has always been exceptional at asking because we've never had the luxury of building for just one kind of person. And we are natively, by definition, as SheFi, aware of and shaped to the identities of all of our community members. SheFi exists because leaders like Erica here said that the status quo does not serve everyone, and so we have to build better. And that same instinct is exactly what the agentic internet needs here today. So my ask of all of you is not to just download an app, although you are wanted and welcome to do so with the Billions native application. I just hope that you remember one thing here today. Every bot has a boss. And now the question is whether that boss is going to be you. Not a technical problem, rather this is a values question. And now I know that this room has more than enough people who know how to make the right choices based on their values and based on the opportunity they see in business and in protocol design. So just as a reminder, my DMs are always open if you have questions. Our Discord is always welcoming of your feedback if you have feature requests. I welcome any questions that you all might have throughout the day. My name is Evin McMullen. I'm the co-founder of Billions Network, and I will see all of you on chain. Thank you so much for having me today.